I want you to judge me based on my voice alone. I'm sure many of you have done this at one time or another. What do I look like to you? What kind of person am I? It's funny how detailed you can get with a question like this, and I've actually found myself giving faces to YouTubers or friends online whom I've never actually seen pictures of. It's especially interesting when you finally do see a picture of them and they look astonishingly close to what you imagined. Now imagine me, but 10 years younger. First word that comes to mind is probably squeaker, but is that really fair? See, I never liked the word squeaker, though I've definitely met a few people who embodied the title, but it seems people use the word without realizing what it means, practically changing the definition to mean kid. But what if I told you that's not what a squeaker is? According to Urban Dictionary, a squeaker is a child on an online voice chat that has not yet reached puberty. The squeaker will talk in an extremely loud voice to the point where the audio levels need to be turned down for the comfort of the listener. The squeaker is infamous for using excessive profanity in voice chat, inserting a swear word into every sentence as they think it'll make older boys think he's cool. The other kind of squeaker is the sex-obsessed squeaker, who's in the middle of puberty and will constantly talk about sexual acts that he's never done, and will use nothing but sexual terms to insult other players. Squeakers will be intentionally obnoxious by saying the same things over and over in a game, trying to dominate the conversation or just won't stop talking in general. Now I want you to go back real quick to thinking of me as a kid. You must be here because you like me or my content in some way. With that in mind, if I were 10, would that make a difference to you? It's interesting because to me it kinda does, and I hate to admit that fact. When I hear a kid online in a YouTube video, I instantly think probably the same thing that anyone else would think. But I've been pleasantly surprised a few times, finding that not only is the channel very calm and down to earth, but also informative and creative. I've even found channels with kid hosts whose subscriber count best myself, and it doesn't bother me. Now don't get me wrong, I've definitely had run-ins with squeakers, and I'll tell a couple of those stories soon, but I think it's important to note that while all squeakers are kids, not all kids are squeakers. So why do squeakers exist? Well, there are a lot of reasons, but parents are crap these days. If you take offense to that, then you're one of the people I'm talking about. A lot of parents today are around my age. I couldn't imagine having a child right now. I'm still a kid myself. I want to go out and have a good time with my friends, focus on my job, and take time to travel. I have plans, but there's a lot of people who make mistakes and have children and then just don't take care of them. Buying them a console and hoping the internet will raise it, and just as we've seen with Microsoft's artificial intelligence, the internet turns young minds into douches. There's also a lot of blame that people like us could take as well. I don't know about you, but I have friends that as soon as they hear a kid's voice in the chat will announce the kid to the call, typically with a phrase like, "Who's the squeaker?" When you're young and you're told something over and over again, knowing the negative connotation to what's being told to you, I mean, hell, you can't beat 'em, join 'em, right? And I'm not saying you've effectively made a kid into a bad person, but it's important to know the difference. If squeakers do piss you off, it might help not to feed them. Well, Barry, you might say in a semi-high-pitched voice, what do you do when you come across a squeaker? And that's when we get into the stories. See, this all depends on my mood. 97% of the time, I'll just mute them in whatever game I'm playing. However, there is a 2% chance that I promise someone over Twitter or Discord that I play a game with them, and it turns out they're one of these kids. The ones who won't stop talking, or trying to be annoying on purpose, or worst of all, trying to impress me with the edgy Bulletbarry memes. Yeah, those are great. "No, Dev, you're huge," as if I hadn't heard that one a million times, and screw me, I'm way too polite most of the time, I just sit there and deal with it or leave. I figure whatever, I'm at least recording some gameplay for a video, right? But then there's that 1% of the time where I've had enough, where I'm done, and no, I don't freak out on them or try to make them cry. No, I can get manipulative and evil. So there I was one day playing a game of Rust when my friend brought his cousin into play. This kid was probably 12 years old, and if you ask me, that's plenty old enough to realize you're being a little prick. And he was. My friend had recently helped him build a computer and would invite him into our Skype call and then leave. Most of the time I'd be left with maybe one other person and then this little demon. And he was such a pain. He would constantly scream for someone to come help him because he was being attacked by a wolf. He would scream when he saw a deer. He would yell about not having weapons and complain about practically every aspect of the game, which made things really awkward for everyone involved. So one day, I had enough. We jump into the server and the kid's asking what's going on. It was just him and I told him that a new group had made a house very close to ours and we had to go in and kill everyone. Now let me tell you the real story. Before he got online, I built a house deep in the woods but close enough to our base that it'd be a threat. I then set up traps around it for this kid to accidentally find. When we went searching for the base, I told him that I would circle around to the other side of the house, but in all honesty, I was only a few meters behind him. The second he got hit by one of those traps, I shot him in the back with a bow and arrow, making his health plummet, but the trap killed him, so it never told him that I was the culprit. He freaked out for way too long, as he always did before trying to respond, but that's when he realized that his sleeping bag was destroyed. I then started fake freaking out, telling him that I got killed too, and my sleeping bag was destroyed as well, and the enemies next door probably got into our base. I told him to join a new server and that I was fed up with this game. The entire time I made everything more difficult than it had to be, to a point where eventually the kid gave up and uninstalled the game. Did I go too far? Now that I look back on it, yes I did, but I cannot tell you how great it felt to not have that guy in Rust anymore. Now look, I'm not saying that if you happen upon a squeaker, you should try to make his life miserable. The punishment needs to justify the crime, but for those of you young guys out there who maybe know you're a tad annoying, try to just mellow out a bit. Have a good time, and don't ruin the fun for everyone else. And for those of you out there like me, maybe don't judge the kid before you know him. If he seems young, maybe that's all there is to it, or maybe he's a little prick who deserves an arrow in the back. And for those guys, feel free to tell me what you did to my mother in the comment section.